Trump has been tweeting to bring justice to Roger Stone. So we're here to talk about the actual trial and what's actually going on and if what he's doing is good or bad. So if you do not know what's going on or what this trial is even about, I suggest watching my previous video where I covered all of that. And this is going into current day. What is happening? What are the injustices happening in this trial today currently? Okay, so Roger Stone is being prosecuted in a federal court. The federal courts are different than the state and local courts. And from what I've been learning recently, they're very corrupt. 91% of people prosecuted in a federal court get sentenced and go to jail. So that's kind of crazy. Like, oh my goodness, that is a high percentage. In Venezuela, they don't have that high of a percentage in their courts. So the process in the federal courts are very different than the state and local courts, and a lot of what you see on TV and how the juries work and everything like that happen on more state and local levels, and in the federal it is very, very different. And the first thing that the prosecution did was the lawyers that were prosecuting Robert Stone told their boss, who is the Attorney General Barr, that they weren't going to be recommending a sentencing amount, that they were going to leave that up to the judge. That's the first thing they did. So they were given leave to do that. Then they immediately went and they broke down all the little things he did, the little lies, and then they tried to add up each sum and exaggerate it, and they asked for 7 to 9 years in jail time for what Stone did, which is crazy. For example, if you accidentally kill somebody and have manslaughter, you'll probably get about 5 years in jail. And a man who leaked classified information, highly classified information, as Trump is famous for saying about this case, he only got 3 months in jail. And then Robert Stone did what? Nothing really that wrong. Nothing really that bad. Didn't hurt anybody. And they want to give him 7 to 9 years in jail. So that's the first thing that has been leaked recently that everybody is outraged about, because that is nuts. So the other thing that the lawyers did to just completely ruin Stone's life for no apparent reason is there was 3 options of where they could go and do a trial for Robert. And one was in Florida, where he lives. The second one would be in New York, where the alleged witness tampering happened. And instead, they decided to do it in D.C., where it is the least likely for him to get a fair and impartial jury, because D.C. is one of the bluest places in this entire world. So all the chance of getting unbiased, unpolitical, politicized jurors is really, really complicated. So that's the one thing they did. Another thing they did is they picked the judge that they wanted. They asked for her by specifically saying that this case correlates directly with another case that she had done, which it really didn't. So they needed her to judge over this one. And she is very liberal and very left and very unfair and known for gagging and doing secret trials and not letting the public know what's going on so they can crucify people. So that's the second thing they did. So then the third, so with the juries, you have to go in there guns blazing to be able to get a fair jury set, to be able to go in and interview your jurors and pick a jury. What they're doing in the federal courts is they're only inviting like 60 people to come, and then you don't get very many options, and they only give you like 30 minutes to decide which jurors you want. So the jury selection in the federal courts is just not fair at all. What you see on TV and in the state courts is like in a trial like this, it would take them about a week to pick their jurors. They would do cross-examination. They would ask them in detailed questions. They would scour their social media pages to see if they have bias, public bias that they've announced before starting a trial with these jurors. That did not happen in this case. So the thing that's been leaked recently, the judge made a secret jury. So sometimes they try to even do secret juries where the defendant doesn't even know who the jury is, which is crazy and unconstitutional. So they made a secret jury. I think the defendant does know who the jurors are, but the public doesn't get to know who the jurors are. And she also gagged Roger Stone so that he's not allowed to publicly say what's going on in his trial. After he posted a picture of her like in crosshairs, like gun crosshairs or something, because she's being incredibly unfair to him. That's when he was gagged. And if he says anything publicly, she'll actually put him in jail till the end of his trial. So that's also very unconstitutional. That's against his First Amendment rights. And gagging in general has been frowned upon in other courts as unconstitutional. And it's happening here, to the point of you'll be in jail if you say what's going on. So anyway, the reason we know that this juror is incredibly biased is that the jurors themselves, some of them, have outed themselves. And a very adamant lawyer went in and looked at all their social media pages and found the things that they were saying and documented before he released it to the public about the things that they were saying and doing that very clearly showed a bias in the jury against the defendant. And that went public, and now there's public outrage about all of this because it's crazy. You're supposed to have a fair, unbiased jury to tell to judge your case. So between the amount of time they want, the judge, the jury, it's stacked against him. So when all of this got media attention, Attorney General Barr, who is friends with Trump, they are working together on things. They do. I think he might have. Anyway, from what I've heard, his biggest fault is that he's a bit naive and thinks the best of the system and the court and people, and that's probably not the best way to be approaching this, especially when coming in on this Stone situation where they're just trying to destroy this man's life. So anyway, he's coming in. The 4 lawyers who did this in the beginning have all resigned. And now we're looking to see what the Attorney General is going to do in this situation. And it's gotten a lot of public attention. Everybody's horrified at what's happening in secret in our courts, and that the courts are being weaponized against political adversaries and anybody they can get their hands on, that they're just attempting. It's very, very Stalin-esque from what I've heard many people saying about what's going on in this court system right now. It's very scary, very uncool. So Trump's been tweeting a lot about it. And I've heard a lot of people saying that that's really bad, that it does look bad for Barr. And Barr has publicly asked Trump to stop tweeting because he's undermining Barr's authority and making it look like Barr's just sucking up to Trump instead of doing the right thing on his own. And for example, Ben Shapiro agrees that Trump should really stop tweeting about this, and it's really embarrassing for everybody, and we should just be quiet about it, which seems to be a Republican stance on a lot of things, like, hey, let's just play nice and be quiet. On the other hand, a very, very good criminal prosecutor that I was listening to talk about this case said that he's probably a really, really good thing. That the Attorney General is probably just going to let Stone get railroaded and the judge will do whatever she feels like unless there is a lot of public attention, because they are public officials and public attention is some of the only thing that can protect us. So it is a really good thing for Trump to be keeping attention and pressure on this situation because it is very unfair. He also says that if this all goes wrong, he should just pull out his pen and pardon Stone and just release the power of the pardon and pardon Edward Snowden and the WikiLeaks guy, Julian Assange. He should just pardon all of them, make people on the far left and far right very happy, although I'm sure they'd find a way to be like, well, how he did it was wrong, even though we've been asking for this for many years. Anyway, and just pardon a bunch of people and call it good. Which, if this doesn't get fixed, I do think that will be what happened, because the public outcry is so incredibly hard, and the unfairness of what is happening is just so crazy. And it's not just happening to Trump. The impeachment trial over Trump was crazy unfair, and it all turned out okay. But now they're just taking anybody they can and just doing this in secret and just locking people up forever. So in the end, I do think Trump tweeting about it and making it such a public issue, I think is a good thing. The only reason I'm talking about it now is because Trump was tweeting about it. And I think it's hilarious that they're talking about impeaching him over it, because in the end, even with trial interference, he could just pardon him. So what's the big deal? And I think it would be hilarious to see a whole new trial come around about what Trump tweeted this time. I think that'd be hilarious, but we'll have to see. I don't think they will, but maybe they will. I want to put it past them. So I'm going to stay on both sides of that, so I'm always right. Anyway, that's what's going on. If you have any questions, let me know. If I know the answer, I'll try to answer them. If not, I will look it up for you. I think that pretty much covers what is going on. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled and we need to stay involved in situations like this to try to keep it safe for our people. All right, see ya.